Hello and welcome to my May TBR list. So for May, I'm really diving into the May Flowers read-along that I am hosting, and so all of the books that I'm going to be sharing today have flowers somewhere in the cover, and I am going to do 7 lit fic type books and then 7 fantasy books and 1 graphic novel. The Carousel by Rosamund Pilcher is what inspired me to start the Mayflowers read-along. I found this book used, I think, in a little free library and saw these beautiful flowers that edge the cover, and I thought, oh, this would be perfect to read in May when all the flowers are blooming, and it just sort of went from there. And so I don't know that much about the Carousel, except that I think this is about relationships and kind of having a relationship that's old and not feeling very exciting, and maybe trying to find more excitement in life than maybe what you're in. So I do know that I love Rosamund Pilcher. We are reading Shell Seekers by her for our Cozy Reader Book Club later on this summer. Cozy Reader Book Club is a book club that I share with Jen's Reading Life. I will leave her information below. Each month we just read a cozy book, and Shell Seekers is on that short list. Next, I am going to read The Flower Fables by Louisa May Alcott. I love Louisa May Alcott. A couple summers ago, we actually went to the Orchard House, which is where she wrote Little Women. We're in her room with her typewriter, and we actually did get to go to the Orchard House. We also got to visit Fairyland, which is not on Walden Pond and in that Thoreau property, but external to that, there's this trail that you can walk on, and this is what Louisa May Alcott grew up playing in. They called it Fairyland. It really is beautiful with ferns, and there's a pond, and it just feels very peaceful and lovely. And so that's my understanding, is that's kind of what inspired these tales. There are, I think, 8 different tales in here. She wrote these supposedly when she was really young, still in her teens, and they're just short little vignettes about different flowers if they are anthropomorphized. This book is actually published through the Orchard House, sort of tourist part of that, where there's a bookshop and this is sold there, and they published it. And so I'm excited to finally get to read this. And my plan is to just move through slowly, maybe read 1 story a day throughout May. Next is The Waratah Inn by Lily Mirren. This is a book that my cousin recommended to me a very long time ago, and on the day that she recommended it to me, I found it in a Goodwill used for like $1. And I texted her and was like, oh, this is, Providence. It's amazing that this has happened. And even though the book has been recommended and came to me at the same time, I have not cracked it open. I think it's set in Australia, and I think it's your love story, but also that family saga that kind of spans through different generations. I think there are, this has 1942. So I think there are dual POVs and dual timelines where you can kind of understand why something is happening at a certain time, because you're also given insight into what happened in the past. And so that's why I think it's that sweeping saga. So I am looking forward to finally reading this. This is the first in, I think, a trilogy. There might be more. So we'll see if I really love this. I will see if the library has additional books in this series. This is The Last Garden in England by Julia Kelly. This is also a multiple POV, multiple timeline tale. In this, we follow 3 women, one in 1907, one in 1940s, and one in present day 2020s. And in this, we follow a garden, basically. In the early 1900s, we are looking at the creation of the garden, the designer, her life, her experiences, and how parts of the garden come to be. Then we follow the garden in the 1940s and see how the World War II is affecting that garden. This is obviously affected by the war in Europe. And then we're following in the 2020s the horticulturalist who has been hired to bring this garden back to its former glory. It reminds me a lot of a Kate Morton with the multiple POVs, multiple timelines, and sometimes I struggle with that, so I am hopeful that this will keep me enthralled throughout each time period with each main character. Next, I have The Girl at the Window by Rowan Coleman. This is the story of a young mother who, with her son, arrives in this decrepit manor on the Yorkshire moors. I love that setting so much. So right there, this might be a home run for me. I read so many books in my middle grade childhood years that were set in Yorkshire moors that are favorites eternally. And so I am excited for that setting. Add into this young mother is actually now a widow. And so she is trying to maneuver through her own grief as well as the grief of her son who's lost his father. At this Pondon Hall, which is a centuries-old house on the moors, her mother is also living, and this woman and her mother have a contentious relationship. And so she's maneuvering through grief. She's trying to figure out how to get along with her mother. And then this house comes with secrets as well. And so I don't know if there is haunting. I don't know if there's echoes of what has come before and how the kind of creepy house and the girl in the window comes to play into this novel. It's pretty thick, so we'll see how it goes with me being able to get to this in time. But this is a kind of creepy aesthetic read, I think, for the spring, but one that I am intrigued enough by that I am hoping to get to it. So next I have Aunt Dimity and the Duke by Nancy Atherton. I have read one Aunt Dimity novel before, and I think it was the first one, and it was okay. I wasn't blown away by it, but I keep finding these in little free libraries. And I realize that when you see a book a lot in a little free library, it could mean that it's just not engaging. But it could also mean that, it's not like this knock you down, 5-star read, but it's good enough that you want to pass it on. I also love this copy. I think the stained glass is beautiful and the flowers in front of it are just lovely. I've decided I'm just going to read the Aunt Dimities that come by that I think the cover is pretty and just have it be this like cozy, the print is not that big. It's just this cozy, quick read. There's like different characters. Aunt Dimity is a spirit, and she can be seen by people and heard by people, and she can move things so that people can find clues. And in this one, she is helping a duke who is missing a lantern, and a woman comes based on Aunt Dimity's guidance to help this duke. And so she kind of acts as this like other, realm kind of helper to help people solve mysteries. Sometimes the mysteries are related to her and her past, and sometimes it's just related to people that she had known and she wants to help. So just a quick, easy read that I am looking forward to just one weekend evening sitting down and reading this cover to cover. My last lit fic choice is A Long Fatal Love Chase by Louisa May Alcott. I had not heard of this until I found it in a used bookstore recently, and my friend that I was with was like, "Oh, I've wanted to read that. Let me borrow it once you're done." And so I'm going to read this. Again, I think it was published posthumously in 1995. This is a story of a love story gone awry, and we have obsession and intrigue and really a toxic relationship. Because it's Louisa May Alcott, I think the toxicity and the horrors of that will be kind of manageable for me, because I think it could be, I usually avoid books with really toxic relationships in them, but I think this is going to be intriguing, and I'm excited to see how Louisa May Alcott wrote a story like this. Okay, I'll do a quick intermission with a graphic novel. I have read a couple of the Enola Holmes books. I've watched the Enola Holmes movies, and I plan to do a compare and contrast between the books and the movies for that. But I saw this graphic novel in our library, and it is called an Enola Holmes Mystery number 3. So I've read the first 2. The Case of the Bizarre Bouquets. Again, perfect for the May read along. And, Enola is interestingly drawn, but I'm interested to see how this graphic novel plays out. And again, really quick read, one that my kids can read as well. And so I will be getting to that sooner rather than later. So moving on to the fantasy genre, we have In Calabria by Peter S. Beagle. I have had this on my TBRs before, even recently. I think it was even just in my spring TBR, but I wanted to highlight it here as a book that has flowers on the cover. Peter Beagle wrote The Last Unicorn, which is a pretty well-known roots of fantasy genre book. And there's also a cartoon, but he's obviously continuing in the unicorn theme. I loved the tapestry cover, and this has been on my TBR for a long time, and I am determined to get to it this May. Next, I have The Thorborn Remains by J.J.A. Harwood. This is a story that has been recommended from a couple different YouTubers, and I found a used copy on Pango and went ahead and grabbed it. So in this story, my understanding is there's a lot of slice of village life. So it's just kind of like the female main character going about her daily life. She ends up going to a dance in which fae are in attendance. And when she wakes up the next day, everyone that she was at the dance with is gone, and she's the only one who remembers that they even existed. And so I think she then kind of, probably is feeling gaslighted, but goes about trying to recover the friends that she lost at this dance. It is set in 1919. I think she develops a relationship or a friendship or maybe a transactional relationship with a Fae Lord to try to get her friends back. It is one that I have been waiting to read and to enjoy. So I also have The Magician's Daughter by H.G. Perry. This is a pretty well-known fantasy book that I have not yet read, and again, have been holding on to it to read simply until there are flowers around, and just feels very springy. So this is set in Ireland, I believe, and we follow Biddy, and Biddy's guardian is Rowan, and Rowan is what is described as mercurial magician, and so all over the place with his moods, and I think he goes missing. And Biddy has really lived this secluded life at home, but once her guardian disappears, she then has to go out into the world to try to find him and recover him. And he apparently has powerful enemies, and she's got to figure out how to weave her way through those dangers to be able to recover him and bring him back home. Next, I've been holding on to this for a while as well. This is A Magic Steeped in Poison by Judy Lynn. This is a duology, and in this story, we have a young girl whose name is Ning, and she is a tea maker, and somehow she makes a tea that actually poisons her sister and I think ends up fatally injuring her. So she decides that she's going to go to the big city where they are having a potion tea making contest, and whoever wins that can then get whatever wish they desire. And of course her wish would be to bring her sister back. And I think there is a lot of political intrigue in this. I think there's more than meets the eye as far as the contest and the people who are in the contest. And I'm also reading another Judy Lynn book this month, and that is The Song of the Six Realms, which comes out this month. In this book, we follow a girl who is an orphan. Her uncle, whom she loves dearly, brings her to a tea house to learn how to behave properly and to play a musical instrument. That's kind of her job. Her family, not her uncle, but her uncle's brother, who's her father, has shamed the family. And so her name is attached to shame. And so this woman at the tea house agrees to take her in and to train her in the proper ways. Well, through that, she becomes this incredible musician, but her uncle passes away. So she's truly at the mercy of this woman and her indentured servant. Well, her first night of playing her musical instrument, a young man arrives and is intrigued with her instrument, her playing, and all of that. And he convinces her to allow him to take over her indentured servanthood contract and to come with him to his estate. They travel for days, end up at his estate. Once there and kind of isolated, she discovers that there is more to him than what he had shared. There is more to the world than what she had ever realized, and that her uncle was very deeply embroiled in something dangerous, and she could now be too. And so that's a phenomenal book. This was obviously is backlist and was published years ago. And yet I've been holding on to it for a while, 2022. I've been holding on to it for a while and just really feel like it is the perfect spring read. And so after reading The Song of the Six Realms, I am excited to dive into this as well. Next, I have Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, which is a Cosmere novel by Brandon Sanderson. I read Tress and the Emerald Sea and loved it. That was also part of these 4 secret project novels that Brandon Sanderson did, I think, last year. Yumi, who is the female main character, is able to summons people from other realms to help in whatever situation that they need to. And the Nightmare Painter wanders the streets and desires, it seems like more than nightmare, he wants to be the hero in his life. And so the two of them meet, and they end up being thrown together in a situation where their world needs saving, and the two of them together with, their powers combined, have the ability to possibly save their world. That's all I know about it. Don't think I want to know much more than that as I am diving into this Brandon Sanderson novel. Last, I have this beautiful copy of The Gilded Woods by Roshani Chokshi. In this, we're set in Paris in the late 1880s. We have a university, we have artifact dealers, treasure hunters, people who have been cheated out of their inheritance and are really on a path to try to seek that. There is an order of people who have asked someone to complete a heist to find an ancient artifact, and it just seems like such a wonderful heist story set in this glittering golden age in Paris in the late 1880s, and I am ecstatic to start this. There is a second book. I think it's a duology. I have the second book, so that if this is phenomenal, I plan to read that as well. So there you have it. 15 books with flowers on the cover that I am hoping to get to for the month of May for the May Flowers Read Along. Let me know what you're reading in May, and if you are planning to join the May Flowers Read Along, I would love to hear that and to know what you're reading. And thanks so much for watching, and until next time.